Good morning, everyone. It is Christine here, and I'm back to finish my piece for the Inspired by Art Collab, being run by Annie Claxton, Arty Farty Annie, on YouTube, and some of her creative buddies. And so yesterday we were stitching our lovely little bee, and since then I have stitched the writing just using this beautiful variegated razzle dazzle thread, and it's from Wonderful. Had someone asking about it. I got mine from Oz Quilts because I found they were the cheapest place to buy that thread from in Australia, but it might be different for you overseas. And I've also stitched this little Goldie. I might lift it up so it's a bit easier to see. Goldie metallic thread. So I'm using a vintage one. It's called Au Papillon, so butterfly. Looks like, I'm not sure where it would have been made, but it's I thought it had Coats written on it, but maybe I missed, maybe that was on a label that's fallen off. Could be wrong, but it's a lovely one because it's got black and gold sort of wound in. So it's a little bit thicker of a weight, and it just gives a lovely, almost, not just a pure gold, you get those little bits of black stripiness through it. And since yesterday, I have also added a wing, and we'll be doing the other wing together so you can see how I did that. And I've added a little button down the bottom because I have a fun little plan, and this came to me when I'm stitching. This is how most of my stitching happens. I'm working away and then something else comes into my mind, and I thought, wouldn't it be good to have a way to let my partner know when I'm filming, so that if I've got my door closed, he knows, oh, I'm doing a video and I'll come back a bit later. And I thought it could be handy as well, even in my working day, which is actually the side that we're on, when I'm in a meeting and can't be disturbed, I can put my little video hangy bit on. So that will hang off the button. So we'll also need to sew one of my beautiful little vintage mother of pearl buttons on here as well. I'll probably put it not fully centered, so probably a bit off to the side for this one. I don't think it should make it, oh, maybe I should do it. Probably should do it centered just so it doesn't make the sign go skew-if. So I thought we could sew the gold work on that as well. If you hear hissing behind me, it's my iron. I've just left it on so I can give this a final iron if it gets a bit crinkled up. But let's first up get on with the wing. So I'm using some of this interesting fabric from the vintage, from the recycled art truck, and using some coarse tulle, the type that you'd kind of make ballerina skirts out of, that I painted just with a gold paint, just like a Kmart craft paint in a goldy colour, not a particularly glittery one, just a goldy colour. And then I'm using the shape that I just cut out from my little design for the bee, which I've turned upside down because it was the side for that side. Yep. So if I want this bit to be showing up, I need to reverse it. Yep. Just checking I got that right. So I've just pinned it to make it easier when I cut it. And I'm just gonna cut around. It does sound like I've got a dragon behind me going hiss, the dragon iron. So I hope you're all having a good day or a good evening. Hope you're having a good weekend if you're watching this. I'm making this on just Sunday, just before lunchtime. Spent the morning getting some good preparation done for the week's meal. So made a massive lasagna, all vegetable based, but with a nice bechamel sauce as part of it. So that's cut out. Now what I'll do, I think, and it's what I did on the other side, is I'll first just put a few stitches in to hold the black because I want to get it sort of right in where the stitching finishes, because I didn't do the stitching over the whole body of the bee. I just need to make sure my wing is flush with that. So let's just put my pin out of the way. I've lost my my pin cushions over here, hiding under some fabric. So yeah, big vegetable lasagna with capsicum and zucchinis, tomato passata, lots of herbs, onion, carrot. I think that's what I put in. But yeah, just chock full of veggies. Let that cook down, sort of as a pasta sauce. And then, yeah, I just layer that with pasta, put some bechamel sauce in, which gives it that lovely creaminess. And then finish with a final layer of pasta, and then finish with the bechamel sauce, bechamel. So I'm just going to pop up with my needle with just this is just a basic black cotton, not an embroidery cotton, just the one sort of that you'd use just for general purpose sewing. It's probably a polyester, which tends to be stronger than cotton, but just a basic one. I think these just, yeah, are in sort of random packs you get from, I think these could have even just been from Kmart. Just a good way to restock the supplies, because I do tend to use the whites and blacks a fair bit, probably the white a bit more than the black. And so not even, because I'll be going over the edges in the next bit of stitching, so I'm really just making sure it just sits down flat, just so I'm not trying to hold two pieces of fabric down when I do the next stage. And so I'm just doing sort of, yeah, running stitch, just to hold it in place, and just a bit out from the edge so that I'm not creating pressure on the edge, which might start to make it fray. Again, if you were doing sort of applique like this on a piece of something that you were going to wear, like a piece of clothing or something that's going to get a lot of wear and tear on it, like a bag, you'd probably want to be doing needle turn applique. But given this will just be sitting on a door, and the most sort of activity it will have will be being flipped over, I don't think, yeah, it's not going to be an issue. And we will be stitching around the edges, which will make sure it all stays in place. Just want to make sure that's joining up fully. Over here. I like how this fabric from the Reverse Art Truck, this sample fabric, just has a lovely, it's got a sort of a raised design in it, and it's got a bit of glistening blackness in it, which creates a lovely effect under the golden tulle. And the colours work really well, I think, with the thread that I selected, so I got lucky. Just put one more stitch in over here to just make sure it stays where I want it to stay. Just doing a stitch sort of over the sample fabric, just to sort of hold it down against the other fabric. There, pretty happy with that, I reckon. So we'll tie so you can see it's just yeah, a little running stitch around, just to hold it all in place. You can see how messy I was in doing my bee. I don't worry how my work looks from the behind. Life's too short to kind of worry about getting it all perfect. I try and obviously yeah, maximise my thread, particularly when they're specialty threads, by not sort of doing more stitches or more sort of distance than I need to. But really, ultimately, I'm here just to have a relaxing time stitching, so I'm not gonna fuss too much. Now I used my thin gold thread, different to the one that I used for the bee. It's a much thinner, as you can tell just looking at those two. So I used that to just stitch around the outside of the wings. Maybe that one was a Coats one. Oh, that one was Coats. That's why I was thinking one of them was Coats. I guess the other one is Or Papillon is the brand. I don't think it's French by the other writing. I think it could even be Eastern European, possibly. Okay, so again, I'm just going to hold it where I want it. And just start getting some stitches in. So I'm just popping up through the very outer hole of the tulle, and then stitching down over the black fabric with the gold thread. Just to hold both bits in place and unify them together. You could, if you were doing this design, you could have the tulle even sit up a bit above, like not anchor it down all the way around. But again, for this piece, I think I'm going to do it all anchored down. But if you wanted your wing to be a bit more three-dimensional, you could have it sit up and just stitch down part of the wing. So did I tell you I also made a, no, I don't think I did tell you, this morning I also made a pumpkin and tromboncino soup. I grow tromboncinos, which are a type of zucchini, but they're close. So when you pick them when they're green, so they grow like a zucchini, but they grow really long like a trombone. So long, half of my body height, or sometimes possibly even more than that, I think. So they're huge. And they have a long, long sort of tubular section, and then a bulbous sort of section on the end of them. So tromboncino, if you want to look them up. And they're great. They just grow prolifically. And what I do at the end of the season is I leave some of them on the vine, and they change from being like a zucchini to being more like a pumpkin, and they actually turn from green to a beautiful orange. And the flesh inside as well changes from the consistency of zucchini, which is a much softer vegetable. When you kind of stew it or cook it, it will soften right down and kind of almost dissolve if you cook it a long time, like in a pasta sauce. Or you can use it sort of quicker cooked, like in a zucchini fritter, where it will keep a bit more of its texture. But the tromboncino, when it is left on the vine to turn orange, it gets the consistency of a dense pumpkin. And the colour, it's orange. It's amazing. Like, it can change from green to orange. So incredible. Gardens do amaze me. And so, always keep some of them. And then they overwinter. I've actually had some that will just sort of, happily stay inside on my pumpkin shelf in the hallway. They're almost a decorative piece because they're so fascinating to look at. And, I've sometimes used some of them 2 years after harvest. But I've got 3 on the shelf, so I thought, I better use those, and got quite a lot of pumpkins as well. And just love pumpkin soup in winter. Just delicious. Put lots of parsley, again, lots of herbs, some smoky paprika. You can put leek or onion in it. I didn't put it in that. My dried herb mix that I add has some dried onion, garlic, etc. in that. Often I'll put some garlic salt in, but I didn't. I just used a Vegeta flavouring today. And what else? Bit of curry powder, did I say that? And then add some water to the pumpkin that I have. I just cook it in my air fryer, and I just put it in there with just a tiny bit of oil. It's not olive oil, just so it doesn't stick. And then just bake it in the air fryer till it's nicely caramelized, and then put it in the blender with the herbs and the water, and just blend it till it's all smooth. And it's so thick at that stage, even with the water added, so even when I then use it during the week and heat it up, I add plenty of more water to it because it's so concentrated in delicious flavour from the baked pumpkin. So I really like doing it that way, because when you bake or caramelise something, you get so much more flavour, and it's delicious. So I've got a big amount of that, and because I just did it with a tiniest amount of olive oil, I also kept some of that for Travis, obviously with no other flavours or onions or anything on that. So he's got some of that for his meal prep. so that's good because I know this week's going to be a busy one work-wise, so it is what it is. So it's good to just not be having to sort of think about lunches or dinners, at least for the next few nights. But it's the weekends, I'm not even going to think about work, even though I am stitching my busy bee. That's probably why I'm thinking work. But weekends are free from work thinking. And because I've done all that, and then I took Travis to the dog park and had a little play. Although as he gets older, he's more interested. He has a little play with the dogs, a little run around, and then he's like, no, I'm going to go off on my own little sniffing adventure. I'm going to go and sniff, and I'm going to eat some grass. He just loves couch grass, the bits at the end, like the almost sort of the rooty bits, which you would think wouldn't be the tender bits, but he loves to grab one of those and have a good old chew on it. It's not because he's sick or because he's missing anything in his diet. Ever since he has been a pup, he's just loved grass, and we know from some of the other fellow puppy raisers for guide dogs that the guide dogs or the Labradors, they love having a munch on grass. We were worried when we first got him. We were like, is he deficient in something? And it's like, no, he just enjoys. And he's not sick because he's got the strongest constitution, I reckon, this dog. Even when he was a puppy, he was such a shocker. He would pick up little like rounded stones from our garden and eat those. And then when we'd seen him eat one, because we were kind of always supervising him, when he was outside, we'd have to wait and check when it came through the other end. So probably didn't need to say that. Probably a bit too much information. Apologies. Thankfully, he doesn't eat silly things now. Well, most of the time. So, almost round. So yeah, I'm just stitching through the little holes of the tulle right at the edge, unthreading my needle in the process. Just with this gold thread. And again, with gold threads, you want to use a needle that is bigger than the thread, because it just helps mean that you don't put a lot of stress on the thread when it's passing through, particularly with metallics. Now these metallics I'm using are okay. They don't tend to unwind or unravel or become sort of difficult, but some of the metallics where you've got a metallic thread wrapped around an inner thread, they will become a little bit tricky. Probably this one's closer to doing that, but this one I'm using right now is pretty okay. But it's good just if you use a needle that's bigger than the sort of diameter of the thread. It just makes a hole that's easier for the thread to pass through, if that makes sense. Am I almost round? Have I gone back to where I started? I don't think quite yet. I'll just keep going around and around. So what have you been up to this weekend? I had one of my lovely commenters say they'd been working on applique on their quilt. I just love how we're all working away on our things, watching videos, even if it's not the thing we're working on right now. It's just lovely to have a creative soul to kind of sit at our virtual craft table while we work. I just love it. I've got so many videos to catch up on. I've been making a bit of a list of my watch list earlier on when I was having my coffee on the couch. And so yes, definitely an afternoon of stitchery planned, and probably a bit of further sorting in the craft room. I just want to keep gnawing away at that. So that's our bee almost done. All done. Then we need to add our extra button on this side. So if I do it exactly centre, it will be just, we'll pop it below the snail, I reckon. Just going to use this off-white, these threads, vintage threads from my partner's mum. hands are getting so dry. It always happens at this shift into winter, and I have to sort of shift, and you can even see it on my fingers, so dry. And I put hand cream on before I started the video, but I think I'll have to go to the hardcore. I think it's called Neutrogena Norwegian formula, and it is, yeah, it's probably what they use in the icy conditions to keep their hands. It's very thick hand cream, but if it does the trick, then I am happy. Now I'm just going to cut off that fluffy end because I don't want those little bits of fluff to come through when I'm stitching the needle, stitching the button on. Okay, so there, let's pop up about here. So these were the beautiful mother of pearl buttons I got a number of weeks back in an amazing Facebook marketplace haul of a whole lot of vintage haberdashery items that a family were cleaning out of their grandmother's garage. Just amazing. I really do feel incredibly lucky with my hauls, although I just can't look at Facebook at the moment. I've got so much, I've got enough stuff, and when I look at Facebook Marketplace, I'm forever finding amazing hauls, so best to not look if I don't need. But I've kind of, yeah, stocked up, I think, most of the things that I wanted to have a good stock of, and now I can kind of go through and rationalise and also see what goodies I might give away as part of some of my subscriber and commenter giveaways. And as I say, I've got to investigate that overseas, sort of a cost-effective way to get some goodies overseas. Just within Australia, I can definitely happily send quite sort of, yeah, bulkier packages of goodies. Overseas, I might have to send some of the lighter weight things and laces and things like that. So we shall see, but I'll have plenty of goodies to share all the same. So there we go, we've got our little hooks for hanging our sign on, and then let's stitch our little sign. Don't, again, get too much on, and I just put some little stitches through to make the little hanging for the sign. Oh yeah, and the other thing, how did I make this? Because you're probably thinking, yep, the borders match, how did you get something that small? Well, I had another one of the napkins that was the same design as the one I used, but as you can see, hopefully you can see it on camera, it's got staining on it that didn't come out in the wash, but that's fine because I'll be able to fussy cut out the flower to use. And what I did was just took a section of it. Let me put it back together to show you sort of where I took one, a corner of it and another corner of it, and then I put those two corners, and you can see it stitched together. I've left it with that sort of slow stitch look and the sort of frayed edges on it, but stitched the two corner pieces together to make a smaller rectangle, which I think is just, yeah, really effective, and it then matches nicely. And then I've got these other bits which I'll be able to use these borders and other pieces, and even just the plain linen in other stitcheries. So always look creatively at what you've got. You'll be amazed what you can do with things. I'm just going to thread this and hopefully not split my thread. Okay. I'll just tie my knot rather than stressing out the thread by running the knot down. So if you do have more finicky threads, you might want to just, yeah, tie rather than doing the other method where you tie at the other end and then run your knot through. Okay, I'll start down here, I suppose. And again, just going to do a back stitch, so just going forward with my first stitch and then jumping forward sort of an equal distance, and then bringing my next stitch back to where that first stitch went down. And then I'll be able to start where the last stitch was, because it sort of went backwards. Whereas if you kind of, if I was to now try and pop up close to that hole where I've just gone down, it would likely unthread, because if I came through the same hole, it wouldn't hold. That's why I jump forward one at this stage and then go back to that hole. But here, because I've already gone down backwards, I can now just go straight forwards from where the thread was. Probably doesn't make sense, so Yeah, there's heaps of good videos on how to do back stitch. And there are a couple of methods. One where you just come out a tiny bit in a different spot, but I just find it easier to do this backwards, forwards sort of motion. Just bring it up a little bit so So again, with this image, I just traced it. I actually this time didn't even, oops, oh my goodness, I've managed to, to stitch my loopy hoopy hanging piece into this. The troubles I get myself into on occasion. What have I done here? Now, what are we doing? This is what's not to do. Probably would have been better not to put the sign on at the get-go. Not the sign, the hanger, because, or if you do, keep it well out of your work. Otherwise, you risk stitching. So I'm going to have to go back a few stitches, I think. Yes. Oops. This looks like a. Oh no, I think I might be able to get it out. Anyway, it's good to show you what not to do. Okay. I sometimes do that as well when I think, oh, I'll just leave one thread in, I'll just avoid it and be able to kind of pick it up again when I need that thread rather than tying it off, and you can get yourself into messes that way as well. Okay, are we almost back? I think we're almost undone, which is good. Okay, so we need to keep that out of the way. So what I might need to do is to just pin it or something over this side. Which I hate having pins in my work, but I might just need to have it there all the same. Okay, hopefully that will do the job. So just going back and catching up where I bring it back up to camera. So going forward and then jumping forward and coming back to where that last stitch was. And again, just pulling out my work to make sure it doesn't end up bobbly. And then jumping forward from the last stitch and then leaving a gap and popping up in front of it and then bringing that next stitch back to where the last stitch was. And then popping at the front again, taking the stitch out. That bit's getting risky again, trying to come through again. And nope, that's the hole there, so I need to jump out again. Just keep that other thread out of the way. Hold it in my hand, and then that way hopefully I won't end up with it getting stitched. Oops. Do a tiny stitch there. So let me know what you're working on at the moment. Or if you're doing craft room organisation, let me know your hot tips for how you organise your fabrics and threads or other goodies. Always interesting ideas. Eventually I'll give you a little bit of a tour of my craft room. It's very sort of what I would describe as functional storage. I've gone for mostly similar sized sort of storage tubs that can stack, but then within those there's a sorting system for my fabrics and threads. And then there's some open shelving as well that I have some more frequently used items in, and some smaller sort of tubs that I keep some of the more accessory bits in. But I don't actually mind doing sorting of the craft room. The only sort of bit I don't like is that I'm not actually then crafting at that time, but I enjoy being with my fabrics and laces, and I find it quite inspiring because I'll kind of think through things that I might want to do with them. I'm just thinking when I was up the top I probably should have done those circle bits, but that's okay. I'll come back and catch those. Because again, you just want to have the least distance that your thread needs to pass through. I think I was just in my own little happy chatting state and wasn't really paying attention to what I was doing. That's the nice thing about simple stitches like back stitch. You can kind of almost do them with your eyes closed. Again, just holding that other hangy bit out of the way. Strong recommendation would be do that after you've done your stitching. But I got a bit excited last night while I was doing the other stitching, and this idea came to me and I started on it, and then I thought, nope, I better at least do the stitchy bit with the folks. There we are. And then I'll just pop up here and do the little roundy bits. With the round, you just want to do sort of small enough stitches that you can get the curve, but it's still the same running stitch. And again, the design has been marked on with my friction marker, which comes out when heat is applied. But there's lots of different sort of pens or other marking things you can get when you're doing sewing. There's ones that come out with water. There's some that just disappear after a bit of time from the air. But yeah, my friction's my go-to. I've not had any issues with it. There's very few projects where I don't end up sort of using it for some bit of sketching just to get my design on. Just takes the pressure away and you're not trying to sort of stitch and work it out where you need to put your needle. You've got a design to follow, but you can have your own created design, which is lovely. You don't have to buy other people's designs. So you can make it the exact size you want it. But yeah, for this one, I just placed a single piece of the fabric, the fabric that sits at the front, over my iPhone, and found a design of the little camera symbol that I liked. Actually, I probably need to take that just down a smidge more so that it's touching the camera bit, and then just traced off the screen of my iPhone. Because it was nighttime, so I couldn't use the method of printing it out in the window, but also I didn't have to then print out the image. I just worked off the screen. I'm just going to take that down a smidge more. There we go. So that's those bits, and then I need to just jump back over to where I was. I might just run my thread sort of through where some of my other stitches are, just so it kind of doesn't sit out by itself. It just means it's not going to catch or anything. Then we'll come down here. So hopefully this is a piece that if you're sort of starting out, you'd feel confident to give a go, whatever design you want to create, using the scrappy pieces for the snail, or doing the bee with just satin stitch or sort of long stitch, short stitch. Or if you're more experienced, hopefully, yeah, you also see it and think, oh, that's something that gives me an idea either to create something like that, or do your own creation, but maybe take something from this. I just love when, yeah, people take ideas and build on them. I absolutely draw inspiration from everywhere. Sometimes I can't even remember where the inspirations come from, or it might be a combo of things that's just sort of drifting around in my head. So there we go. Let's tie that off. And if I didn't want to have this stitching on the back, or if I want to, I can put another bit of even just some of the fabric and just stitch over like that if I want to neaten it up, or I could have just done it on a single bit and then stitched the fabrics together. So there's just a couple of options for you. And so what I'm thinking now, actually I'll give them both just a quick iron. So I'll just jump up behind me, sorry, just aim the camera. Pretty straight, but let's just give it a quick once over. Just ironing on the back of it rather than the front. And I'll just find the foldy bit that's going to be where it... Sorry, you probably can't hear me. I'll come back and talk to you where you can hear me. I just folded along the join, and I need to fold my little iron my camera. Did I just say I folded along the join? I meant I ironed along the fold. My goodness. So there we go. That's our little camera symbol, which I think will be great. And then I'm going to use a knitting needle, which I've tied some yarn to, or it's like I don't know if it's meant to be like a macrame yarn. It might have been something. Never got it to actually use for macrame, but I thought it was just a nice heavyweight yarn. Now what I'm thinking I will do, but I won't necessarily put you through watching it, is I'll probably put, I will put a little stitch in at either end, and I'll probably attach that, I'll attach it to where the ropey stuff is. And then I'll also just do some little over stitches along the bottom as well. I can show you that. Let me get a bigger piece of thread. We can do that. Where's my needle gone? Where's my needle? Can anyone spot my needle? Can't give you a prize because we're not in real time. If we were live, otherwise I'll have to use a bigger needle, but I don't really want to. Got a longer one there. Has to be somewhere around here. Surely I haven't managed to drop my needle on the floor. I don't know. It's possible. Oh no, there it is, over there. We eventually find the needle. So when I'm talking about an over stitch, just thinking about, you pop out, actually I'll just hide my end of my thread in the fold. And then I'll hold my two bits together, and I just want to catch, and I'll just line them up a smidge more. And then I just want to catch the tops of both of them, and I'll actually turn it back the other way to make it a bit easier for me. And because it's folded, it is a bit thicker fabric, but you just catch just the very little edgy bits. and it will then just hold these bits nicely together. And it will also mean I have a little bit to slide in my little recording sign or in meeting sign when it's not in use. So I can just sort of slip it into the pouch between the two fabrics. So that's just, yeah, the stitch where you're just passing through both bits and just doing a really neat little overstitch, which you can't even see on the bottom, but it will just hold it together. And it will then mean that I can just slip in my little, when it's not in use, just slip that into there. And then when I need it, I take it out and hang it on the button. And then it will just be hanging down below, letting anyone know that I've got a bit of a recording going on. So I hope you like that, and I hope you like my slow stitch snail and my buzzy bee, my busy buzzy bee. It's been a lot of fun, so thank you to the creators of the Inspired by Art collaboration and the Inspired by You challenge. I have loved creating this, and I'm going to love putting it up on my door this afternoon. So thanks everyone, take care, and I'll see you soon for a fun video. Subscribe so you get notified when I post a video. I'm trying to get them up pretty frequently when I have new and exciting things to share. And take care everyone, and I look forward to seeing your creations or hearing about them, or a comment or a like. Thanks everyone, bye.